Discussion of the night, and we want to talk about the implications of Kenyan government spending in 2023 and its broader economic impact to the country. Jim Jonyo is joining us live via Zoom to help us decipher this topic. Jim Jonyo is an economist and it's not his first time here, so karibu tena Jim. Good evening. So with the issue of time, let's just get right into a discussion of the night. I'm trusting you well. Now, the government's public spending has gone high, despite now President William Ruto's commitment to slash spending and borrowing, right? What would you attribute this turn of events to?
Well, thank you so much. Nice to see you again, Anne. I'll go straight to the point. I think right now we have nothing apart from to say that the country is not actually heading towards the right direction. And the main reason is because when the government came into the office, they started by creating many positions that actually led to more spending. So I think the problem we are solving right now when it comes to more spending is because they created the problem by themselves. So right now, well, it has happened now, we must find a solution. What is the solution? First and foremost, I'd really like to appreciate the court decision last week that denied the CAS from enjoying the benefit because the court actually confirmed that indeed the government operations are going on even without the CAS that were stopped from operation. So that is one of the ways of reducing spending. So a country like Kenya is a frontier economy, and a frontier economy must actually work on how to reduce their spending. That is the first step into prosperity. You don't tax to increase money so that you spend on the positions you created, but rather you find out the less important sectors that do not contribute towards the economic growth. Then you spend less on such areas. And the truth be told, we don't even understand the economic basis of why the government is actually borrowing more, yet they're still claiming that they want to reduce spending, and the purpose of borrowing is to spend. And in an economy, in an open economy like Kenyan economy, we expect that there are two main sources of revenue, and these two sources are, one is the taxes and the other one is borrowing. A country that borrows means that the country is spending more than what the country is getting from taxes. In economic terms, we call this one budget deficit. It exists whereby that the amount that is scheduled to be spent in a given financial year exceeds whatever has been collected in that particular year in terms of revenue. So I think what the government needs to do is to sit down with the team, reformalize come up with new policies. They accept the fact that indeed we created positions that have led to more spending as opposed to what we can actually raise so that to meet the spending that we've actually created. And at least for that way, we can actually get a direction towards the economic prosperity of this particular country.
Now, Jim, with increased public spending, there's often a concern about inflation. So maybe how do you foresee the government's action impacting inflation, and what measures can be taken to manage potential inflationary pressures?
Oh, nice. Last week, actually, there's a policy that came in place by Central Bank of Kenya. In economics, we call it a contractional monetary policy. Contractional monetary policy, from the term contraction, it will lead to decline in economic growth. The contraction monetary policy that the CBK put in place was to increase interest rate from 10.5 to 12.5. That is a two-digit increase in interest rate. And how does this thing going to lead to a reduction in inflationary pressure? when you increase the interest rate, it means that the cost of borrowing will be high. So people will shy off from borrowing money from the banks. And this one will lead to less money supply within the economy. And if this happens, it means that people will have less to spend within their pockets. And with this one, when we literally define inflation as the more money chasing few goods, this is the intention of the government to reduce the inflationary pressure. Yes, it is true. But remember when I started, I said it is a contractionary monetary policy. Well, the government is trying to reduce the inflationary pressure by reducing the amount of money that circulates within the economy. They are trying to intrigue what we call a decline in economic growth. Because once people are unable to borrow more money from the banks, it means there's low investment, it means there are low job opportunities, it means the businesses will not perform as per the required by their managers, or rather by the owners. So it means that the spending within the economy is going to go low. If the spending is low, definitely we call it there's a reduction in the aggregate demand and supply, and this one will automatically lead to something we call low economic growth. Yes, they want to solve the inflationary pressure by increasing the interest rate, but they are forgetting one thing, that in the long run, we are going to achieve low economic growth. So the government is supposed to come up with a policy mix. A policy mix is whereby you're including either contractionary monetary policy, then you counter the policy by an expansionary fiscal policy. The physical policies are the reduction in taxes. They also include things like increasing the spending by the government. But the monetary policies are the policies like the interest rate coming up or going up. So the government actually needs to come up with something called policy mix. Policy mix is whereby you get a monetary policy in place that, and you also counter it with a physical policy. For example, when you want to reduce the interest, when you want to increase the interest rate, you must ensure that you are increasing spending on the other side, so that while monetary policy is contractionary, physical policy will be expansionary, so that at the end of it, we achieve an economic growth.
Yeah. All right, great. Now, the government in October presented a supplementary budget to Parliament that increases the country's budget by over 5%. That is to 3.9 trillion from the estimated 3.6 trillion in the 2023-2024 financial year. Now, how do you anticipate this 5% increase in the budget to 3.93 trillion Kenyan shillings? How will this influence the Kenyan economy? Now, particularly concerning its debt levels and overall fiscal health.
Well, thank you. I think it's straightforward. Once you increase your spending and you don't increase your income level, it means you'll have to borrow so that you fund this particular. It just happens, just like in our lives. You see, I have got 100 shillings I want to spend, but then my budget is 150. Where am I going to get the 50? From my friend. That is borrowing. So the first effect is the government must borrow. That is first. If the government continues to borrow, the people who are going to pay for all this money is the citizens themselves, right?
Yeah.
And one, if the government borrows, as we've seen in the past, our government have been borrowing from, we call them the Bretton Woods institutions. These institutions are like the IMF, the World Bank. If the government goes and borrows at World IMF, a loan called collateral loan. These loans come with something we call SAPs. SAPs are defined as structural adjustment programs. These are economic reforms that are being put in place by the Bretton Woods institutions, that the country that wants to take loan must adhere to them so that you get the loan. So this is how this is going to affect our overall physical well-being of the Kenyan citizen. When the government is going to get this loan to meet the 5% deficit, they are going to be given condition. The condition will either be removal of subsidies, which is going to affect the Kenyan economy, either in the agricultural sector or maybe in the production sector. That is one. Another thing, it will be the devaluation of the currency. The reason why this one must happen is they will always ensure that when you are getting back the money, they're getting it in more than what they gave it to you.
Right.
That is one. The third one is going to be the privatization.
Privatization.
Exactly, of the state-owned enterprises. Then another one is actually the increase of taxation. That is obvious. So when you increase tax because of the SAPs, you privatize the state-owned institution because of the IMF, or rather the loan, you remove the subsidies. How do you feel that the country will actually get back to its economic pathways? So definitely the increase in the 5% is going to affect the common mwananchi directly from the pocket, because they are the people who are really going to suffer from this particular policy in the end. Because in economics, that a policy that cannot lead to an economic prosperity in the long run, that policy is bad. It rather destroys the economy in the short run when preparing for something good in the long run.
Now you're saying that we have to borrow in order for us to fill in the 5% deficit that the government is trying to achieve. Now, is the country really feeling the effect of these monies that you're getting from loans, positively that is?
Oh, nice. I think that is the most interesting part of it. Yeah. So, well, there's an increased public conscious about every now and again you see His Excellency traveling somewhere, and you see in the note there, the government is going to receive this amount of billion from India, the government is going to receive this amount from from UAE, from IMF. So this consciousness has actually increased in the public conversation. So, well, we are asking ourselves, if you're borrowing money, we need to see the effect of this money being borrowed. We need to see that this money is being channeled to a development plan that maybe with time is going to start raising some money in form of revenue. And when this revenue will come, we expect that at least we, the citizen, we are going to pay less tax as before. So there's a way that money borrowed should be put in good use, so that at least the citizen can indeed feel that, well, the government went and borrowed this amount of money, and we've actually feel that indeed the money has been used well. So currently, I'll confidently say that we are seeing borrowings happening right, left, and center, but we are not being given a framework, or rather how this money being borrowed is being used. You see, we the citizen, we only see it's on the news, this amount of money is being borrowed, but from there we don't know where this money went to, we don't know the channels, we don't know how the cartel used the money. Actually, we don't understand how this money got into our economy. We only see it in the news, amount of billion was given to Kenyan government, but we can't actually account for where this money has been spreading all along within the economy. So we don't feel there's no positivity from the public when it comes to borrowing. We all feel like the money being borrowed is getting lost somewhere that we don't even understand, and therefore we don't feel its economic value.
Now, when you say that we are receiving money and we're not seeing where the money is going, that is true. Last week, President William Ruto got 38 billion dollars from India, and this was to monetize or to maybe improve the agricultural sector. And the agricultural sector, the president and the government, rather in general, is seeking to create job opportunities for the Kenyan youth. Aren't you seeing this being actualized now, when the government is trying to allocate more funds in the agricultural sector?
Well, about the jobs abroad,
in agriculture, in the country.
Well, sure. Because I wouldn't like to criticize about the government exporting its citizens to other countries to do work. It's none of our business. If it's possible, well and good. But well, when it comes back to the country, you see, agriculture is a very, very crucial economic sector when it's come to prosperity for a given country. So the government needs to give more more attention to this particular sector. But you find that some of the policies that are being put in place are not supporting this particular sector. And now this is whereby the government is maybe relaxing when it comes to diverting more resources towards this. We expect that when the government is taking all these borrowings, we expect the amount, a larger percentage of this amount is being directed towards the crucial economic sectors that might lead to creation of more job opportunities. Because, well, we might not even blame the government on this, because maybe not every jobless person wants to settle for a job in an agricultural sector, but we cannot run away from agricultural sector, because all industries must depend on agriculture, because all raw materials start from agriculture. So what the government needs to do is to just find a way to channel some funds with more particular sector. At least it can be checked upon, so that we can realize growth in this particular sector, so that at least we can create more employment. I don't believe in exporting brains to other countries as a way of increasing employment rate, because you see, even those other countries, there's no country that has 0% unemployment rate. So why do you want to take your citizen to another country, a country that also is looking for an employment opportunity for its own country?
All right. Jim, as we wind up, you mentioned something about now when we borrow, we are going to have to pay more than we took, and now that the shilling is depreciating against the dollar. Now, given the challenges in servicing these external debts, what strategies maybe do you recommend for effective debt management?
So currently the Kenyan shillings is at around 155, 157. Yeah.
55.
55, yeah, sure. So Kenyan economy is an exporting country, and an exporting country must value its currency, so that at least the exports can be. We expect a country that Kenyan economy is an importing country. Sorry for that. So an importing country should have an overvalued currency, so that at least its imports are expensive, in a way that if the trading partners import from our country, we get more money from the country, from the exchange. But again, there's another thing that works well, increasing the interest rate as done by CBK. The advantage of this when it comes to strengthening the Kenyan shillings is, when the interest rate is high relative to the trading partners, it will make more investors to save money in form of Kenyan shillings. And this one is going to increase the demand of Kenyan shillings. If the demand of Kenyan shillings increase, it means that Kenyan shillings is performing well in the global market, and with time, the currency will start to appreciate. So the first step is make sure that the exchange rate is a bit higher as compared to your trading partner. Then with time, the demand for this particular currency will be high, because people will feel like, if I save in Kenyan shillings, because the currency is getting stronger and stronger, it means that I'll be getting more. And I love to quote from a certain speech by the 5th Vice President of Ghana. You don't need to look anywhere, just observe the exchange rate. It will tell you where the economy is heading to, because in an open economy like Kenya, you must depend on exchange rate to observe the movements within the market. So exchange rate is the most important thing, because it is one of the fundamental microeconomic variables that actually determine whether a country is heading toward the right direction or not. So the rule is, high interest rate will make Kenyan currency attractive to the investors. Most of the investors will demand this money. When they demand this money, the value will increase, and when the value increase, we'll realize that our domestic currency will actually appreciate in value.
All right, that is Jim Jonyo. Jim Jonyo is an economist. Jim, thank you so much for making time for us tonight. We do appreciate you for your time.
Thank you so much, Anne, and nice to see you again.
Good to see you. Have a good night. Allow us to take another short break at this point. We're coming back with sports, so stay with us.